Hi, Bethany Manxelo here. You have joined us for the magnificent monthly Millwall podcast, which features thoughts from the panel about what affects the beautiful game and Millwall. Enjoy!
Hello everyone and welcome to the No One Likes Us Talking special, remembering Matija Sarkic. I'm your host, Myles Thornton, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of former Lion Phil Coleman, Ted Robinson, plus a guest panelist today who was meant to have two guests, but Jackie Lawson of the Blue Anchor pub in the Blue Bermondsey unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but we do thank her for making the effort to try and come on. And also Paul Loding, the general manager of Millwall Romans and Pride. Welcome Paul, Phil and Ted.
Hi Myles.
Hi Myles, how are you doing?
Hello everyone. Good evening, Myles.
It was a sad story for both Millwall and Montenegro on Saturday the 15th of June when news arrived from Europe surrounding the passing of our goalkeeper Matija Sarkic. We broadcasted Maritime Radio that day. Here are two clips from that broadcast from former chairman Jeff Burnage and former Millwall keeper Brian King.
I have with me Jeff Burnage, former Millwall chairman, who's going to say a few words.
Well, the Millwall family woke up early this morning to this terrible news that our goalkeeper Matija Sarkic had passed away suddenly. In common with all the contributors to No One Likes Us Talking, I would just wish to send my sincere condolences to his family. I believe his father, Bojan, is the Montenegro ambassador to the European Union and previously the ambassador to the United Kingdom. He was born in England, Matija, to Boja and his mother, Natalie, and he had a twin brother, Oliver, I believe. This news brings back the tragic thoughts we had last summer at the sudden passing of our chairman, John Berylson. I'd been looking forward to a long Millwall career for Matija Sarkic, but very sadly, our last footage and memory of him will be walking round the Den at our end-of-season lap of honour. Once more, my heartfelt condolences to Matija's family that they must now be allowed to grieve in private.
Thank you, Jeff. And I'm going to hand over to Brian King, the legendary Millwall goalkeeper from the 60s and 70s, who holds the club's record goalkeeping appearances. Brian.
Can only reiterate on what Jeff Burnage has just said and yourself, how shocked we were to learn of the tragic passing of Matija. Such a nice fella, and he looked to me as though he was going to be the future of Millwall for the next 3 or 4 years, that's for sure. Now, I first encountered him at Aston Villa when I was working there, and a thoroughly nice boy, polite, old school in everything he'd done. And as Jeff said, I can pass on my condolences to his father and his mother and the family and to people of Montenegro and people at Millwall, because he was a cherished member of the Millwall family and would have been for the next few years. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you to Brian and to Jeff Burnage for those thoughts. And firstly, I'd like to talk to you about Bermondsey Town Football Club, who are a local non-league side, and I am the head of media and communications at the club. And my role also is to market for the club, the marketing. And we've recently launched a new proposition for Millwall fans. All Millwall season ticket holders and membership card holders will get half-price entry to our home games from next season. So please do, if Millwall are away or not playing, please do come down and support Bermondsey Town, because we really could do with your support. We play at St Paul's Sports Ground in Rotherhithe. I'm your host, Myles Thornton, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Phil Coleman and Ted Robinson, plus a special guest of Paul Loding, the general manager of Millwall Romans and Pride. Ensure to get down to St Paul's Sports Ground when Millwall was not playing or are away. In Montenegro that morning, Vijesti reported the goalkeeper of the football team of Montenegro, Matija Sarkic, died this morning in Budva at the age of 26. As Vijesti learned, he fell ill in the apartment where he was staying, after which he sadly passed away. Just a few days prior, Matija Sarkic impressed the public with his saves in a friendly match with Belgium in Brussels. After that, he missed the game against Georgia to attend his brother's wedding, his twin brother Oliver's wedding, which unfortunately 5 days later he passed away. He was born in 1997 in Grimsby. He started his career in the younger categories of Anderlecht, and in 2015 he moved to the younger categories of Aston Villa. That's when his career on the island of Britain began. After Aston Villa, Sarkic played for Wigan, Stratford, Livingston, Wolverhampton, Shrewsbury, Birmingham, Stoke, and eventually Millwall. He arrived at Millwall in August last year. He played 33 games, and in 12 he did not concede a goal, and he was one of the best players for the Lions this season. As Millwall's first goalkeeper, he gained a lot of sympathy with his games, both from the club and the fans. He went through the junior representative selection of the football team of Montenegro, and he made his debut for the A team against Belarus in a friendly match in 2019. He played 9 games for the Brave Falcons and excelled in the last one against Belgium. His twin brother, Oliver, played for Decic in the previous season and was among the most deserving of the club's player title from Tuzi. What you just heard there is a translation of the Montenegrin word. Rest in peace, Matija Sarkic. Phil, how did this affect you when you heard about Matija Sarkic, his passing, and did you have an abiding memory of Matty?
I would imagine, like everybody else, I was genuinely shocked and gutted, and I also thought, not again. But for me, it's the whole circumstance and the whole package that surrounds his passing that's so sad and just so wrong. He's only 26, fit, athletic, a professional sportsman. He's just become our number one goalkeeper, and he started to flourish, particularly at the end of the season. A Montenegro international. He was captain, man of the match against Belgium in the last game. And I've watched the highlights, and he pulled off some great saves across the whole game. And then he was best man at his twin brother's wedding, and then suddenly we lose him. So that circumstance is just gut-wrenching. And with so much still to offer. I mean, his parents and brother family must be so proud of him. Those loved ones must be so proud of him, but they're also going to be in bits over losing him, as will his teammates. And if you've ever been in the change room, I wouldn't call it cliques, but you do have your close friends, and they will suffer. It'll hit them hard, and it'll take time, particularly those that were close to him, and probably socialise with him. And from my experience, I can remember losing John Lyons. It actually brought the team together. It brought us closer together. We stuck together. We got our head down, and we trained harder, and we kept talking about him, and we still talk about him now when we get together. I'm sure the first game of the season, now confirmed against Watford, I'm sure that game's going to be for him. And in that change room and in his loved ones and fans, it'll always be in hearts and memories. But for me, the circumstances, the whole package of recent events, it's not right. 26-year-old fit young lad with so much to offer. And I only met him once. I saw him in the car park before a game, and he was smiling, walking along. He had time for everybody, all the kids. He only said hello to me, and he carried on walking with that smile on his face, looking very confident. And everybody has already mentioned about his dedication and work ethic to being a footballer and a goalkeeper. And as Kingy said, I'm sure he would have been our best goalkeeper for a long time. So again, my thoughts go out to his loved ones and his teammates.
Paul, I understand you met Matty at the end of season awards. How did you find him?
Yeah, I was really lucky to attend the end of season awards, and it was obviously you're in a situation with all these players that you've been watching all season and very close up, and it was quite random. Our eyes sort of met. We was at different tables, and he looked over at me. I looked at him. He gave me a big smile, and a couple of moments later, he walked past behind my chair and just tapped me on the shoulder. He put his hands on my shoulders and just gave me a quick tap just to sort of say hello. And I just thought it was a really, really nice moment. I don't think he knew who I was, but we'd obviously locked eyes with each other. But as Phil just said, I just think it's just so sad. Such a young player, 26 years old, having such a future ahead of him, and to die so suddenly. It's just such a tragic time. But yeah, it was a nice moment to have that with him.
The Millwall Romans play Charlton, the Addicts, on Sunday the 16th. What was the atmosphere like at St Paul's, and did you do anything special? I don't know if you did.
Yeah, we had a game on the 16th, and because it's so close to home, and as soon as we saw each other, we'd all discussed it. and to be fair to Charlton, they also agreed. We held a minute's silence before it was the cup final day, and to be fair to Charlton, I think they were quite shocked as well. It was, such a young player dying, but yeah, we wanted to sort of mark his passing, and it felt right to have just a minute's silence on that day, just to celebrate his life, really.
That's lovely. Ted, do you think we'll have the same challenges as when John Berylson passed away regarding finding it difficult to move forward?
Yeah, that goes in. I think, Myles, the different sort of situations with the people concerned, if you know what I mean. Young Matt, he's in front of him, and I don't think John would have been upset if hearing me say this. 26 is no age, and this boy, in my opinion, as Phil's already said about, if you see how he played in that Belgium game, how he played in the last few games of the season, and the lasting memory I have is that save against Southampton that kicked us off for Neil when he came back, that won us the game. I was saying to my friends, and I was saying to them that we've got a keeper here that is going to be a top class keeper. He was, for his age, he was just improving in every game and becoming more commanding, more, and you could see that he fitted in with the squad. That's how it must be so difficult for them. But what I always think of in these situations, like I did when John passed away, and that, you have to think to yourself, I do anyway, how would he have wanted us to go on from here? And I'm sure Matty, like John, would want Millwall to be successful, would want us to put our best foot forward from here in memory of them, in honour of them, give them something to be proud of. It is fitting, as Phil said, that our first game of this season is going to be at home to Watford, and I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that is going to be a day of remembrance to Matty. Every Millwall fan, I'm sure, will want to be in the ground to show and pass their respects to who was a young lad who was taken far too early from us. But as I say, I know Neil's going to have a difficult job in finding someone to fill his boots for the first game. We have to go out and get a goalkeeper from somewhere, but hopefully they get the right character to come in. I know all the guys that are there and that was there with Matty from last season are going to up their game even to a stronger level on that first game of the season because of what has happened to Matty. It goes without saying that, again, I pass all my respects on to Matty's family and everyone else concerned with Matty, including the lads, the Millwall boys, because when you work with someone day in, day out, you tend to finish up taking them a little bit for granted in the sense that they're there and they're always there. It's only when that first day you turn up and there's that smile isn't there anymore, it's not around you. And a likeable lad like Matty, I had the pleasure at the same awards do as Paul was speaking to Matty, and he was such a nice guy, and you just knew that I could see the feelings that the other boys, the Millwall lads, had for him. He was, without a doubt, I know we use the word Millwall family a lot, but they was a family, and it felt like a family member had gone to myself because he was just such a nice guy. So hopefully, it is going to be a challenge to move on. You're never going to forget the guy. Of course we ain't. You're never going to forget John. He'll always be a memory of these people, but in some ways we owe it to them to carry on and do the sort of things that they would have wanted Millwall to do, and we do it in their honour. That's what I say.
Yeah, 100% agree with all that. He'll be a tough act to replace, leaving a big hole in the squad. We'll take a break there and listen to our sponsor and great friend of the show, Dean Wilson.
Hello, Dean. Myles here.
Hi, Myles.
Hi, mate. Your funeral directors are famed for caring for Millwall families. Where are you located and how far afield have you travelled to accommodate the needs of families?
Well, we've got two branches. Our main one's in Eltham, in Wellhall Road, and we've got another one in Locks Bottom, which is near Orpington. Millwall fans all round us. We cover all areas, and we do travel for families. We had a lady very recently that passed away up north, but it was her wish to come back to South London for a funeral, so that's what we did. We went up to Sheffield and we brought her back. We quite often carry out funerals for Millwall families all over South London and Kent, right down to the south coast.
Dean Wilson, Independent Family Funeral Directors, caring for Millwall families, no matter how near or far. Should you need them at any time, ring 0208 33 11 111. That's 0208 33 11 111.
I'm your host, Myles Thornton, and with me are the No One Likes Us Talking team of Phil Coleman and Ted Robertson, plus a guest panelist of Paul Loding, the General Manager of Millwall Romans and Pride. Thanks very much to Dean Wilson for sponsoring this special show. Vergesti also reported as the Euros went into its group stage, the premature departure of Matija Sarkic made the whole football world cry. However, apart from the great athletes of Slovenia, no one else paid their respects to the young Montenegrin goalkeeper during the European Championships in Germany. Edin Idrizovic, former European champion in modern dance, decided precisely at Euro 2024 to thank Matija in his own way for everything he did for Montenegro. A banner with a photo of our goalkeeper was displayed from the stands of the Allianz Arena during the match between Denmark and Serbia. Edin wrote on Instagram, "In memory of our Matija Sarkic, I decided to make a banner in his honour for the match of the European Championship in Munich, and thus remind the organisers that a minute's silence was something they should have done for our Matija, to remember all players and national teams that they should have paid tribute to a young man and athlete." Phil, studies suggest that the incidence of cardiac arrest, namely arrhythmias, heart failure and heart attacks, increases during many major sporting events, especially sports like football. What's the Football Association and the Professional Footballers Association positioning on monitoring players' health?
It's actually quite good, Miles. Until recently, I know that the FA test all young 16-year-olds on entry to the programme. It's actually mandatory, or it was. The tests include physical tests, as you'd imagine, but ECGs and echocardiograms. And more recently, they've now made it recommended. I'd like to see it as mandatory, that players have to have those tests again at 18, 20 and 25. However, I do know that a good few years ago, they tested 11,000 players over a 20-year period. And unfortunately, 8 still died out of that number from undiagnosed heart issues. They call it sudden cardiac arrest or cardiomyopathy, which I know quite a bit about because I've lectured it to the students in my college. And cardiomyopathy is an abnormality of the heart muscle. And despite ECGs and echocardiograms, you can still not find it. So sadly, there was 8 out of 11,000 in those tests, which then made the FA recommend that these tests are carried out again at 18, 20 and 25. And I know my son, he had to go to London for tests when he came into the pro game when he was at Colchester United. And he went through a heck of a lot of tests. And I also picked up on it because a PE teacher many years ago, she lost her 16-year-old son after a hockey match. And the charity CRY, Cardiac Risk in Young People, that evolved from that. And I actually used to fund from my budget when I was head of PE. I used to get CRY to come in, and they come up from, I think it's the Royal Free Hospital in London. And we get some top surgeons and their staff, and they would come into the school. And I put it out to over 15s, up to the college under 18s and their parents who would like a heart scan. On 2 occasions, 3 years apart, I had about 400 students have this test. And some, 5 one year, we found that they needed minor heart treatments. One in particular stands out. He was going scuba diving. I think it would have killed him if he hadn't have had this heart test. So, unfortunately, as in education budgets, I couldn't fund it ongoing. So I had to stop it. But I would imagine that in professional sport, it is now an absolute must. We've had too many incidents. And with social media, and the world is very small with TV and media, these experiences, Marcus Ericsson, etc. But I think the FA have moved in the right direction. Mandatory testing at 16, more testing at 18, 20 and 25. But sadly, there are, even after those tests, undiagnosed heart problems, which sadly account for a few. I'm not sure exactly what the situation was with Matija Sarkic, but from what I do know, the FA and the PFA are on the right lines in making sure that they test these young players.
Paul, you still play at an amateur level. What do you think about the position regarding health monitoring in the professional game?
I think as Phil's just touched on there, I think that's really good. They're doing the ECGs at 18, 20, 25. Football's even at our level, you always want to push yourself as much as you can. You always want to run a bit quicker. You always want to be a bit stronger, play better, because you are playing for a team at the end of the day. If I don't get there, then it could affect the whole team. And I think you're always pushing yourself to be that better player. So I think it is sad that even after all the tests, that still players are passing away. But I think that's a really good thing that the FA are taking it seriously and are doing these ECGs at those ages for younger players. And I think would it help even doing something in the amateur game as well? As I say, you're always trying to push yourself as a player, even at my age.
Yeah. What I do know is at semi-pro level, when you're trying to become an affiliated club with the FA, in England football, you have to have at least one person who's trained in that way to help think like that happens.
Myles, can I just say, I totally agree there, Paul. It never struck me, but we've got tens of thousands of non-league players who are paid, in some cases, a lot of money in the National League and National League South and North and the Isthmian Premier. And I'd recommend that they all get tested, because I was coaching a National League South team, and I never saw any heart scans in just over a year I was there. So, that's a fantastic idea that it should be mandatory as well in non-league. Because you're right, it's the same people, it's the same players, it's the same heart, and if it saves lives, that's what we should be aiming to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Ted, the England team is sporting titanium health rings as the team progressed through the group stage of Euro 2024. The FA is believed to have paid £12,000 to equip both playing staff and support staff, and Gareth Southgate has been sporting one too. It monitors everything from sleep quality to stress levels and heart health. It's too late for Matija and many other young athletes who've lost their lives. But is it an excellent way to go as technology continues to become an essential in our fantastic game?
Not if it makes them play like the England team, no. Sorry. I've been wondering why they've been so rubbish, and now it could well be these titanium milk rings that are doing it. No, look, I mean, to echo a little bit what Paul was saying, and certainly what Phil was saying there, you cannot, any sort of medical advances that are made that can be brought into sport to check the health of people have to be there. I remember a few years ago when we used to do the old Lions live show from the Den and that, we had a young lad called Toby Allaby come in who suffered a heart thing on a football pitch, and he had started up campaigning. He was only 19, I think, when it happened, but he started a campaign about getting defibrillators into football grounds, so that there was one there in every football ground, because at that time there wasn't. And it seems like a nonsense to me when you think about the money that is in football and around in football, that there should be any medical advances that are made that can check the health of these young lads and the older ones as well. It should be in there. I mean, these titanium rings, I believe, are like the Fitbit things that you get and whatever. They monitor your heart and all that. I mean, I'm not so sure that I want to wear something like that on my finger all day long, telling me how I'm about to get it. But certainly not while I'm watching Millwall with my heart. It'll be playing all over the place. So, because there's also, it can bring a sort of sense of anxiety into people about how healthy I am if you're watching yourself all the time about your health and whatever. But if you're a professional sportsman or footballer out there, you're putting your body through hell. I mean, we did it, and I know Paul does it as an amateur. I played till I was about 45, and I run around like an 80-year-old person at 45 because of the amount of running about I've done. So you're pushing your body through extremes with whatever sport you are, with whatever level you are to a certain extent. The only thing, the difference with the professionals is their job. It's what they do. Their body has to be in as tip-top shape as it can be for them to put the best performance out on the pitch. But in doing that and getting your body there, you're pushing it to its limits all the time. So, look, the advance in medicals within the sport now, Phil could tell you what it was like in his day. I'm sure there was next to nothing going on. And if you got injured, they jabbed you with a needle and say, get back out there, son, you'll be all right. And off you went. So there's always advancements going on every year within sport. But there's some issues that need to be looked at a little bit deeper and looked at a little bit more regular. In a sense, I hear what Phil was saying about the 16, 18, 20-year-olds and 25 and whatever. To me, all that was going through my mind then, that's great. But why is it not done every year? You know what I mean? Perhaps it should be something that I'm pretty sure at the start of the season, I'm pretty sure the Millwall boys yesterday when they went back were having medicals on everything and anything and checking how much fat they're put on and God knows what else and that. Yet they don't automatically get a heart scan, which seems a bit strange to me in this day and age when we've certainly got the medical technology to give you a good understanding of how that person's heart is acting and if there's any possibility of that heart maybe not working. And it's a horrible thing to say, but maybe in some respects with things like what has happened to Matty, it brings it more to the forefront of everybody's eyes and gives people the sort of kick up the backside they need to make sure that they are doing everything they possibly can to make sure these guys that are going out there week in, week out, putting their bodies on the line and pushing it through the extremes that they do are looked after medically in the best possible way.
Ted, I totally back that one as well, because back in the 70s, probably earlier, and 60s, if you broke your leg, you got a cold sponge down the back of your neck. If you punctured your lung...
It worked though, Phil.
Yeah. I can go through a broken leg and I have a cold sponge down my neck and I'm carried off. I had a punctured lung, broken ribs. I had a cold sponge down the back of my neck and I'm carted off on a blue light. There wasn't anything. We had a trainer. We didn't even have qualified physiotherapists. It wasn't until late 70s that I saw that the club had a doctor there on match days. So, as you rightly saying, Ted, the advancements of what we now provide, and Paul touched on it when in non-league, we have a physio at non-league, but to my knowledge, there's no doctor. And I went to watch Colchester United under 21s versus Millwall under 21s, and the game was half an hour late kicking off because they didn't have a paramedic in the ground. And I'm thinking, this is a pain, I'm going to get home late. But they were right. You should have a paramedic at an under 21 game. It's the right thing to do. If we've got technology, and nowadays we have advanced technology, let's use it. Because at the end of the day, was his name Marcus Ericsson and Luton, Tom Lockyer. Tom Lockyer, they have highlighted the absolute need for immediate assistance to some of these players and the crowd as well. And players, we can't have players and fans losing their lives going to watch a sport or playing a sport. Some players, they're classed as assets. So again, if we're going to move forward, it's not for me to recommend, but I'm going to voice an opinion. We should make sure non-league players are health screened and heart checked. And we should make sure that there's an annual test. Because I think, whilst I agree 16, 18, 20, 25, they're reasonably spaced out. Perhaps we should, at the start of every football season, every player is checked. and it becomes good practice. As I say, the technology has moved. We have got trackers, and I'm sure we've got heart monitors on some of the kit that the players are wearing. So we have moved forward from the 70s and 80s when I played. We have definitely moved forward. It's far better, and I'm sure more players' lives have been saved because of the scans. But one's too many. And
you can go further than that, Phil. In actual fact, I mean, I remember saying I used to coach Thamesmead Town under 14 boys, and I got so panicky about the fact that if one of them got injured, it was down to me. That not only did I do a first aid course, but I also went on the FA's physiotherapy course for first season, which was the start of what, if you wanted to be a physio within a football club, it was like the starting thing and whatever. Scratching the surface of the knowledge that you might think you need. But, there's lots of young kids' football teams out there where there's nobody with any sort of even first aid training that is running a team. So if anything was to happen, there's nobody there to do anything, which is criminal, really. And so, all I'm saying is we always tend to look at the top end of the pyramid as such. And as you're pointing out, Phil, quite rightly, that it should filter down into the non-league game, which again is free. But in the same respects, it should filter all the way through, even to like kids football, even to park football to a certain extent. If you're got the responsibility of running a team, you should be responsible to have someone there that has got some sort of medical knowledge, even if it's just a first aider, that they will know what they should have to do in case there was a certain situation that occurred,
Agreed, Ted, and you're right. And I watched games under 11s, under 12s. I taught for 33 years, and I did the first aid qualification. I did the resuscitation course almost annually. I've used it. I like to think I saved a life when I was in Finland, a motorcyclist. Resuscitation is absolutely vital. Again, dropping down. We started off talking about Matija Sarkic, and then Paul's brought up non-league. We're dropping down to under 11s, under 12s, and these young kids. We need people on the sidelines that can resuscitate, that actually have got good first aid knowledge.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for one particular team, but if a club's got 3 or 4 games on its local park, at least somebody should be there.
Somebody should be around. You're right.
Yeah, just to cover it. Yeah. So, from Matija Sarkic, we've had a good conversation here, and there's some. Hopefully, we have moved on, and lives will be saved because of what is in place. But it could be better. Could be better.
Yeah, you're right, mate. There's always going to be natural progression in things as we go on in life, because everything becomes that little bit more available in a sense. I mean, even talking about the question that Myles asked me to start with about these rings, I didn't really know about these rings until I heard about it with England. I thought, what's that about? And then maybe Myles asked a question about it. But, if somebody had said to you 10 years ago, you'll be walking around with a thing on your finger that can monitor your heart and how you sleep and all that, you'd think they was mad. So there's always huge amounts of advances that goes on, but it's how much of it can filter through into the right areas and be in the right places for people. That's the concern, because as human beings, sometimes we can be a bit slow on the uptake of what's really required for certain areas, certainly on the medical side of it. It always baffles me when you've got a certain medical procedure that could be done to save somebody's life or whatever that, and people just seem to take it for granted because one or two people know about it. Well, if 1 or 2 people know about it, everybody should know about it to a certain extent of how to do it. There should be a more concerted effort to make sure that as much as we can, that everybody at any football match, at football, wherever they are, is as safe as they can be in a sense of their health, or there's always going to be something or someone around that can help them if there is any distress or anything. And like you say, Phil, that goes for crowds as well, obviously, at a football match. It's not only about the players on the pitch. When you're crammed into in a stadium of 14, 16, 20, 78,000 people or whatever that, as we know, that the St John's ambulance people, they're every day and probably don't get as much recognition as they should do. But there's people there, and is there enough people there? I don't know. But we should really make sure, every club should certainly make sure that there is always the facility there for any situation that may occur where it affects anybody's health that's within that ground.
I'm sure, Ted, that Myles, Paul, I'm sure there are barriers to having it to implement what we've been talking about, and I think the biggest barrier will be money. But when we've got the richest football association in the world, and they are chucking millions at pitches, I think my homework for the next couple of days might be to look at what the FA are actually providing in terms of funding for first aid and the resuscitation kits, etc., at non-league grounds and grassroots football, because I definitely know in schools and colleges we're 20 seconds away from defibrillator. As I said, we're all qualified first aiders in PE and coaching staff. So I'll be interested to do a bit of research and find out what the FA are actually putting aside for this. But I would imagine that cost is a barrier. It's
always going to be the same, Phil, isn't it? At the end of the day, everything comes back down to money. But you know, when you've got a footballer running around, and don't get me wrong, I think if you're the greatest footballer in the world, you're entitled to be paid as the greatest footballer in the world, you know. But when you talk about some of the sums of money that they're on per week, you know what I mean? And you add that all up together and what people are paying out for that, you know, surely there's a sort of certain amount of that chunk that maybe could be taken away and put into a side to the thing. The problem with what we're talking about is more often than not is because people think it may never happen or it won't happen. It doesn't happen. Well, when it does, it highlights it all. And when it's highlighted, then people go, oh, like we should be doing something. But then let's do something about it before it happens. Let's be proactive. Let's make sure we can give these people the best backup service of medical that we can in any situation that they might find themselves in. Let's not wait for a disaster to happen or anything like that to happen that jogs people's minds about what is important, you know. To say we all know and we all understand it's important to earn a living, but you know, it just sometimes it sinks in the amount of money floating around in football and where does it actually get distributed to? Well, let's get a fairness in there and make sure some of it's distributed in the right areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good points that you guys have made there, and I think what you just mentioned there about it, you know, let's jump on it before it happens. You know, it's never going to happen to us. We'll be all right, or someone else will do it. I think they're really, really valid points. And I mean, we had an incident on a couple of weeks ago on the final where our striker Jay's gone up for a header and ended up with a nasty cut across his eyebrow. And we were lucky we had someone there that knew what they were doing, and he ended up, I think, 8 stitches. I think he had in the end. But just a little thing like that, you know, it's important to have the right infrastructure there and the facilities there to deal with it.
To deal with it there and then, Paul, yeah. So we started this conversation, or Myles did, in telling you that you're not a young footballer anymore. You should hang your boots up. But, I mean, that's another story, really. I've not seen you play, Paul, but he's talking on the health count of, I believe, I'm not sure. You'd have to check with Myles with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, charming. Thanks for that, Myles, by the way. Thank you.
Blame Eamon. I didn't put that in there. We'll take a short break there and listen to Bethany Manctillo talking about the Millwall Community Trust funding.
The Millwall Community Trust, something that I, Bethany Manctillo, admire for all that it does. The Trust was established in 1985, works to provide sporting, education, social and healthy lifestyle opportunities to the local community in Southwark, Lewisham, North Kent and the wider community. Its work is targeted at people of all ages, irrespective of race, gender or sexual orientation, and runs programmes aimed at tackling social exclusion, racism, knife crime, lack of employment opportunities for young people, mental health and disability issues. The Trust aims to be a progressive and campaigning charity that makes a difference to ordinary people's lives. Its work is undeniably essential to the local community. They have sponsorship opportunities to support this work. Email commercial@millwallcommunity.org.uk. I'll say that again. That is email commercial@millwallcommunity.org.uk. Please help if you can.
I'm your host, Myles Thornton, and with me I have the NOLUT's talking team of Phil Coleman, Ted Robertson, plus a special guest, Paul Loding, the General Manager of Mill Romans and Pride. Matty was particularly supportive of the Trust. If you can donate or sponsor the Trust, you'll help them deliver their activities across all age groups in our community. Originally published by the New York Times, here are some of the thoughts expressed about Matty by his family and friends. Matija, known for being a thoughtful, academic and hugely popular player for every club he's represented, was coming ever so close to fulfilling his dream to playing in the Premier League, having just enjoyed an excellent season with Millwall in the Championship. That dream has now been cruelly snatched away, leaving his family and friends struggling to come to terms with seeing a young man in the prime of his life taken far too soon. After finishing the season with Millwall, Matija flew to Turkey and Spain with Millwall's Andy Marshall, his goalkeeping coach since his time at Aston Villa, to prepare for Montenegro's friendly match against Belgium on June the 5th. The extra training paid off as he pulled off a string of outstanding saves and was named man of the match in Montenegro's 2-0 defeat. It was said to be the best game of his life. Tragically, it was also his last. Rest in peace, Matija Sarkic.
Matty went to Montenegro for a mini break, landed in the country on a Friday. He and his girlfriend Phoebe spent a day at the beach and proudly showed off his newly furnished apartment in the coastal town of Budva on the Adriatic coast. However, in the small hours of Saturday morning, Matty woke up feeling unwell and collapsed shortly afterward. His friend and former Aston Villa defender, Oscar Borg's girlfriend, a nurse, administered CPR until the ambulance arrived. The paramedics then attempted their own resuscitation, but without success. It was an instant death, his father Bojan said. He was not suffering. The traditions here are that the brothers placed the brother into the coffin, said the brother Oliver. So me and my brother and the two workers from the mall picked Matty up and placed him gently in the coffin. He looked peaceful and he was in his national team kit. R.I.P. Matty.
The Football Association of Montenegro organised a memorial service the following day, attended by the country's president, Jakob Milatovic, which his brother Oliver paid tribute. He said in his speech, "I always remember him as he was last. A tall, handsome, smart man, a loving brother, and a greatly talented goalkeeper who is hard-working and dedicated." Matija was buried with his grandparents, Biba and Alaya, in the main cemetery in Podgorica, the capital of Montenegro. They both believed in him so much, his father, Bojan, said. "My mother decided on the name Matija, and my father was a footballer who always said he would make it as a professional. Now he's with them both. Rest in peace, Matty."
He was also remembered for his ability to light up a room, sense of humour and mischief, infectious energy, love of travel and good coffee. He was so passionate about coffee that he had a station at home christened the Sarkic Lounge. Everything he did was fun, Bojan, his father, recalled. He did it all with a smile, and that was him. My mother was an actress, and she called Matty Granny's actor, because he was always making fun around her, dancing and doing silly little things. His favourite was Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen's film character, and once at Millwall, while they were out at Christmas, they dressed him as Borat. He did something similar at Birmingham. He bought a plastic Lamborghini and came into the dressing room dressed like Troy Deeney, because Troy had a Lamborghini. It was always to have some fun and make people smile. Matija Sarkic, fond memories will not be forgotten. Rest in peace.
What a memorable person Matty became to us at Millwall over 33 games after joining us last August. Neil Harris revealed that talks are underway regarding plans to honour him. Fans always use the phrase, "once a Lion, always the Lion," he said, and I think that speaks volumes for us as a football club. Matty was extremely proud to represent us. It's an opportunity to pay a moment of respect. Supporters appreciate what people do for their football club, and there will be various tributes in the coming weeks and months. We've already started talking behind the scenes about how we can pay our respects and honour Matty's life and his time at our football club. On those final words, I say on behalf of myself, the No One Likes Us Talking team, not just on this episode, but the whole No One Likes Us Talking team. Matty, your memory will live on with your family, friends, and Millwall fans. We play out with Montenegro's national anthem, to which Matty stood firm and proud when he represented his country.